welcome to the Yogashala YouTube channel. You know what the best part about practicing yoga is? The finishing sequence. Being done. Everybody loves being done. Now, there's a very important thing we need to know about the finishing sequence. Is it holds some of the most beneficial poses throughout the practice. In many yoga texts, in some writings, even in Yoga Mala, there's written that the most important poses or the most beneficial poses are located in the finishing sequence. It's also the place that, because we're trying to get finished with the poses or finished with our practice because we have to rush off, these are also the poses that we tend to pay the least amount of attention to. So while you're watching the video, there'll be tips on how to stay in the poses longer. Again, things to look out for. So be mindful that when you're doing the finishing sequence, as when you're doing the beginning of the practice, some of the most beneficial things for you are located in those poses or in those asanas. So enjoy the video, like, subscribe. After you practice, get a cup of coffee, more prana. We'll see you later. Bye. So we've already talked about standing, and we've already talked about the primary series. Now we're talking about the finishing sequence, which is probably some of the most important poses, the most beneficial poses in the yoga practice. We're going to start with shoulder stand, halasana, and KARNAPIDASANA. Those are the first three. These can be done every day. So first we're going to lay down on the back. Then we're going to inhale and we're going to lift the legs up into SARVANGASANA, shoulder stand. Now, as much as possible, we want the hands under the hips. If you feel like there's too much weight on your neck, or if this, then you shouldn't be doing this pose already. Right? This pose needs to come later. Normally, you would not start this pose, these poses, even the back bending, until after you've gotten to the Marichasanas, halfway through the primary series. We want to continue to extend, and the weight is resting through the arms, not necessarily in the elbow, but through the shoulders and through the arms. Again, if you're feeling too much weight in the neck, she can drop her hips back and bring her feet down and bend like this. Right? This will be okay. When we do shoulder stand, we want to stay as long as possible. Right? The benefit from, one of the big benefits from the pose is it helps to make the heart pump more. So it's kind of like a cardio. And it also gives us a little bit of, it should be giving you a bit of rest in the spine. So like a traction. Right? So you stay anywhere from 20 to 50 breaths if you want. Immediately after doing shoulder stand, we want to bring the feet down towards the floor slowly into a halasana position, and we clasp the hands behind the back. Again, if this is way too uncomfortable, then you just hold it here, put your hands on your hips. Then you just support your hips. Lifting your lower back is the biggest trial in this particular pose. You'll find students being weaker in this pose because now they have to sit up upside down. So this is okay for halasana. Or straight legs like this. Even though she's holding the support, that's fine. After 10 breaths here, then we're going to bend the knees next to the ear. KARNAPIDASANA. Again, lifting the hips. Now, all the same premise. If the hips do not stay up, come back up, bend your knee, put your hand on your hip. Then this would be the pose. This may even be the combination of shoulder stand, halasana, and KARNAPIDASANA. It's most important that you're lifting from the hips. It's not collapsing and resting on the neck. The torso needs to be active. So a lot of times people will complain about neck pain, and it's because they're not holding their hips up. As a teacher or as an adjuster, you almost never stand behind the person. Okay? If you're going to, you can lean back. So if she happens to be falling, she can be resting on you like that, or resting on you like this. But just let them rest. Okay? There's no need to make them do that pose. This should be enough, and this would be enough of a benefit for them. Go back to shoulder stand. Okay? So again, shoulder stand. Elbows are in as much as possible. Halasana. Feet touch the floor. Clasp the hands behind you. KARNAPIDASANA, bend the knees. And then lay down. Come down slowly and lay down. So those are your first three poses of the finishing sequence. URDHVA PADMASANA and PINDAASANA. These poses, if you are not able to do the SARVANGASANA shoulder stand, you should not do these poses unless instructed in a class by a teacher. Also, if you're not able to do the lotus, you should probably wait until the lotus is better before you try these poses. So, having said that, you exhale and you lay down. Now, we're assuming that your shoulder stand is okay, but you're still working on the lotus portion. So inhale, come up to shoulder stand. So if you cannot do full lotus, then you start with the right leg and you take your right leg in as best you can. And then you bend this knee. So you would just bend like that. So you notice how her hips are back, but she's able to hold herself up. Okay? This again becomes the more important thing out of all of it. If this is not being lifted, everything else is going to be resting in the neck. So you would take about 10 to 20 breaths here, and then you would switch. And then you would bend the leg, and you would put it, and you would just bend. Right? That's all you need to do. That would be the extent of it. When we get to PINDAASANA, the same thing would happen. We would do the right leg, we would bend this in, and you would pull your knees down towards you. You notice that we're not letting go of this support. Okay? So if you can't hold up your hips on your own, then doing the PINDAASANA, as you saw in the demonstration, is not advisable. Okay? Always keeping support in the hips. This is holding you up, and the torso is active. Nothing is passive. There's no position where you're just holding dead weight. Everything is always active. The transition from here, you would stay in that 1 foot lotus, bringing your hands down and rolling down into this position. So that's URDHVA PADMASANA and PINDAASANA.